spent several years growing up in a small town in southeastern Ohio, not a lot different from this region. I saw a lot of affection for land, small farms, orchards, coon hunts, trot lines. I also saw in my extended family high rates of alcoholism, abuse, all kinds of dysfunctional problems, such that many younger members of the family envisioned a different kind of life and went away. In the members of your family that you write about, and many of the characters in your stories, the characters seem to possess, some of them anyway, an intrinsic or underlying virtue or character that drives them.
Yeah.
Those problems I've described are still with, and they're very prevalent in the rural communities I live in today. They're around me. Does that still, in your mind, does that virtue still arise only from affection, or does it arise from something else?
I'm not sure how else it would arise if it doesn't arise from affection. I mean, we have it by prescription. Love thy neighbor, do unto others as you would have them to do to you, and those things. Don't kill. Don't steal, and all that. And you can obey them if you. But the real solid, enduring reason would be affection. You don't kill your neighbor because you need him, her. You need a neighbor. Don't forget now that fiction is fiction. One thing I've tried to set myself is the task of writing about some people who struck me as being mainly good people. Because the modern fiction enterprise, has been really interested in stories about people who weren't determined or formed by that impulse toward goodness. Now, there are drunks in my fiction, and murderers, and bad neighbors, and so on. But that question calls on for some elaboration. First, there's a real question in my mind: how many communities are still rural communities? Most country people now are city people, actually, who just live in the country. They're consumers. They don't live from the land anymore much. In my community, in the last few years, the neighborhood principle is just gone. The work swapping that went on, the good talk among neighbors that work together is gone. So that's gone. And what they're doing, well, I would say that something really significant has happened to a rural community when it quits telling stories from its memory and starts telling what it saw on television. Something is gone. I know from my friend John Harrod, who's a good student of the fiddle music traditions in Kentucky, every country town had some fiddle tunes or songs that were uniquely its own, along with the repertoire, of classics, Soldier's Joy and those. What has happened when a community has lost its songs, its music, and its stories? We don't know. If you read intellectual magazines like the New York Review of Books, from time to time somebody will throw off on the suffocating provinciality of small towns or the narrow-mindedness of small-town lawyers, something like that. And that again is a kind of it's language is gesture. They don't know what they're talking about. There is such a thing as the famous small-town gossip. And sometimes it can be vicious. But another function of small town gossip, it tells you who needs help. I mean, that's the way churches, for instance, find out who in the community needs toys at Christmas. Those things. Alcoholism, drugs, they're all out there now, and they're there in the kid culture, the school kid culture. But then I don't know where you would go to escape those things that you listed. The only difference is that people are apt to suffer more intimately in small communities where everybody knows everybody. My community, I had a great uncle who used to say in Port Royal, we don't distinguish the masses from the classes, which is pretty true. But my community's put up with some pretty odd characters, including me. I mean, tolerated actually people who had been institutionalized if they'd been in a big city. They'd have been on the street drunk,